The eyes cannot see what lies beneath the surface of either you or me. What do you see when I come up here? What does your eyes tell you? Did he tell you that I'm a cowboy that rode Brahma bulls and rodeos? Or that on an April morning in 1958, I became associated with animals when my mother set in a high-performance Ford heading to a ranch just outside of Napa, California. I imagine that my mother must have been experiencing tormented emotions, knowing that she was taking her newborn baby, me, to a storm where violence and rage flourished in my father. My mother likely thought that taking me to that ranch was like taking a new infant and throwing it in a den of lions and watching them rip it apart. When I became old enough to feel emotions and feelings, I realized that I had been tortured and abused by my father. I was afraid of mistakes. Mistakes had consequences. Bullwhipping. I was often the victim of mistakes. Bullwhipping. The only comfort I had on that ranch was with the animals. I had a pony, strawberry with gold mange. I would go out to the pasture. Many of you have pets, so you know when you go home, they come to you, they're seeking affection, and they're wanting you to give them affection. My pony would see me, and he would come to me. I always sensed that this pony could tell that I was standing in a storm of stress, and duress, and abuse. And every time he'd come to me, he would place his head next to my face. It gave me something. It impacted my life. This was 50-some years ago. Oh, I come home from school one day and my father tells me, I sold your pony. Imagine sitting in your living room in front of a big picture window and somebody comes and they take a brick and throws it through there. It shatters. Shards of glass go everywhere. When my father told me that he sold this pony, that's what he did to my heart and my brain. Animals were a big part of my life. One day I was coming home from school and I looked under a bush and I seen a little big-eyed brown jackrabbit. I don't know if you know very much about rabbits, but jackrabbits are reported to run 37 miles an hour. It seems as though this little rabbit, as was expecting me, when I looked at it, it looked at me and something told me, pick it up. Most people pick up rabbits by their ears, but I reached down and I picked it up from its underbelly and I brought it to my body, held it gently and looked at it to see whether it was injured or not. It wasn't hurt at all. So I carried it home. I put it in a cage next to the domestic rabbits. They were white with pink eyes. Later that night, a storm began brewing. I knew that this rabbit could not make it unless the cage was covered. So I went to my dad with pleading eyes. I said, can I go out there and cover that cage? He looked at me with indifference in his eyes and said, no. The next morning when the sun rose, I went out, and as I approached the cage, I see the little rabbit turned on his side. Immediately, I knew that it was dead. I was sad, I was hurt, and I was angry. I was sad and hurt because the little rabbit, by allowing me to pick it up, told me that whatever my father was beating with that bullwhip wasn't in me because it trusted me. It let me pick it up, take it home. Angry because it trusted me, and now it's now dead. Now it's 2006. I'm at Pleasant Valley State Prison. I don't know if you heard, but a lot of people were dying of valley fever. I couldn't breathe, and I was hot. So I told the officer, I can't breathe, and I'm hot. And he looked at me and said, Lionell, you're talking, so you're breathing. You're standing, so you're okay. This is prison. And he walked off. A little while later, another officer came to take me to a hearing. When she grabbed my arm, she said, "Man, I can't take you to that hearing." I said, "Why is that?" She says, "You're on fire. I have to rush you to the medical station." But once inside this medical station, it was a small room. They hooked me to the vital machine. Somebody listened to my lungs. And I seen the nurse practitioner get on the phone. I heard her tell someone, "I have a man here who has 106 temperature. He's in critical condition. His vitals are off the chart, and his lungs are full of bacteria. We need an ambulance." So I was ambulanced to Kalinga Regional Treatment Center. Once inside the emergency room, a doctor came in, and I'll never forget. It was kind of strange because he walked in, and he started walking with his head down. He said, "Lionell, it's all bad, man. This time, you can't sign out against medical advice. I have to admit you. They're going to try to save your life. You're in critical condition. They're going to be hooking you up to these machines and moving you to a room where they could put you in an ice bed and try to bring the temperature down, try to keep you alive." He moved me to a room, and he said somebody would come in there every 15 minutes and check you. Every 15 minutes for 7 days, somebody came in that room, a nurse, doctor, someone. And invariably, every time they came in, they turned that vital machine where I couldn't see the whatever it said because they didn't want me to feel worse than I already did. But I would search their eyes for a sign of what state my health was in. And each time I'd search their eyes, they would always get tears in them. Some of the nurses would go, "Shucks." I knew I wasn't doing good, but every time I seen them tear up, my heart softened and my health strengthened. This went on for 7 days. At some point in this 7-day period, I realized that these people were not healing me with medicine. It wasn't the IVs, it wasn't any of them things, but it was what came from their hearts that has me alive to stand here and talk to you today. I had recently given a speech about my past to a small group of people. And when I had completed it and was about to depart, a man in the group said, "Give me a hug." Well, this is prison. And prisoners, they look at me and hugging, not in a good way. But the guy said, "Give me a hug again." So he hugged me. And when I hugged him, I realized I didn't feel his arms. What I didn't feel was nothing negative. The only thing I felt was peace, harmony, tranquility, love. And I realized that this man, kind of like the rabbit, for some reason or another, he had been placed in that spot on that day at that time to teach me something, to give me something. I realized that he had just hugged me with his heart. I'm glad of that. No matter how anybody looks at it, it's one of the best blessings I ever had in my life. I know that when I started out this speech, it's obvious that as a child, I didn't know much about the matters of love. But a small rabbit, without any words, said, "Your heart I trust." A small pony, without any hands, sheltered me and said, "I love you." People at Kalinga Regional Treatment Center, the medical, they healed me with their hearts. If love was in a particular place or a particular person, if it had a particular measurement, particular skin tone, eye color, any of them things, we'd all know where it was at because everybody on the planet would be heading in that direction. We could just follow the traffic. Love is in a particular place. And today it's obvious from all you people here. And it's in every one of you. And if you got a mirror, just look in it. And then go beneath the surface and go into your heart. And my challenge to you is, be like the rabbit. Find someone who's in need like I was. And maybe without words, show them love. Or like that little pony, touch them with something other than your hands and have an impact in their life. Or like those doctors and the nurses. Love is not this superficial thing that a lot of people aspire to. It's something much deeper. It's some spiritual dimensions. Those people, they knew that the medicine, it wasn't going to do it. But they had in them what it took to keep me alive to stand here and talk to you today. And each of you have in you what it takes to support life in each of you every day. And I believe that this is what you should do. Thank you.